My name is Christian Dietz and I'm a co-author of the SEPS report, Navigating the EV Transition, Barriers and Tools for Shifting Europe to Low-Carbon Mobility. And in this report, we look at the main challenges facing the EU automotive industry, explore ways to support the shift to electric vehicles, with a particular focus on battery electric passenger cars and vans. Our report shows that while battery electric vehicle uptake has grown in recent years, the path forward is actually far from certain. A dip in registrations in 2024 highlighted how volatile consumer demand can be. And this is very critical because the mountain to climb if we want to meet EU climate targets in the transport sector is quite steep. Annual BEV sales of passenger cars and vans would need to rise from around 1.5 million in 2024 to more than 6 million vehicles by 2030 in some scenarios. And even if sales accelerate, a key question remains how much of this growing market will actually be captured by EU manufacturers, as they face already declining market shares and increasing competition from foreign competitors, particularly from China. On top of that comes that prices remain a major barrier for consumer uptake. EU battery electric vehicles are still considerably more expensive than combustion cars, far above what European consumers are willing to pay according to surveys. On top of that comes the challenge to retain European value added during the transition. For combustion cars made in the EU, estimates suggest that Europe retains up to 90% of retail price in value added. For battery electric vehicles, on the other hand, the share can be 10 to 20% lower, which is particularly attributed to the limited development of EU's battery industry. When BEVs are built in Europe by foreign companies, even less value stays here, since R&D and other key activities are carried out abroad. So without stronger European battery value chains, more and more value could shift abroad. On top of that comes the need to scale up charging infrastructure, improve electricity grids, reskill the European workforce, and address risks around supply of critical raw materials. So taking all these issues together, the scale of the challenge becomes quite clear. It's tempting to see that the transition is only about climate targets, but it's actually about much more than that. It is about whether Europe can decarbonize the transport sector while also staying competitive, preserving jobs and making EVs affordable in the EU. Well, despite the hurdles that we identify in the report, the EV transition can offer major opportunities for Europe. According to our scenarios, revenues from battery electric vehicles could surpass current revenues from combustion cars by around 2030, depending on how prices and consumer uptake will evolve in the future. Also, cost parity of combustion and electric vehicles is coming closer as battery prices decline. The differences will remain for some time, putting pressure on profitability during the transition. And the challenge will be to offset the declining revenues from combustion cars while BEV production costs are still higher than those of combustion cars. While new business models such as connected services could offer new revenue streams, those are only just emerging. A central piece of the puzzle is developing Europe's battery industry. Scaling up European battery production is a clear pathway to preserve more value in the EU and support jobs. But this also faces its own challenges as investments remain uncertain. EU battery prices are still about 20% higher than those of Chinese batteries, and higher costs could also feed through to EV prices. So the potential implications for consumer uptake will need to be carefully considered during the transition. The shift to electromobility is essential for meeting EU climate targets, but the success is not guaranteed. A lot hinges on consumer uptake, falling production costs, and Europe's ability to secure key parts of the value chain. The transition will therefore be a balancing act. Relying more on imports would support the climate targets, but shift jobs and value outside of Europe. Expanding European production would help retain value and competitiveness, but risks higher costs in the short term. So the challenge for policymakers is to strike the right balance, keeping EVs affordable while building European value chains and skills. In our report, we explore financial tools to support these efforts and accelerate the transition, including targeted support for consumer uptake, innovation, infrastructure, and skills development. So if Europe succeeds, the EV transition can deliver on climate ambition, safeguarding competitiveness and creating jobs all at once.